you're not as selfless as you think you are. Neither was Stan Pines, a brilliant, accomplished, six-fingered genius who thought that he was above manipulation. But Bill Cipher destroyed him with flattery in about 3 conversations, all because he understood something most people don't want to admit. Selfishness blinds you. He manipulated Ford to build an interdimensional portal by calling him a genius. He manipulated Dipper to give up his own body because Bill had tapped into his resentment that Mabel's needs kept holding him back. He even manipulated Mabel into trading reality for a fantasy world where she'd never have to grow up or lose anyone. Bill won every single time someone chose themselves over someone else, and he only lost when someone finally didn't. If you've ever wondered why your relationships keep fracturing, why people seem to drift away, why success feels hollow, Bill's defeat might hold the answer you don't want to hear. But before getting to his defeat, we have to talk about his first real appearance, when he introduces himself to Dipper, Mabel, and Soos inside Grunkle Stan's mind. And the first thing he does? Calls them symbols instead of names. Pine tree for Dipper, shooting star for Mabel, question mark for Soos. He does that for a reason. All because they're not actually people to him, they're objects, they're categories, symbolisms, things that serve a purpose in whatever upper dimensional game he's playing. You don't name your chess pieces, you just refer to them. So that's the philosophy that Bill is about. When Dipper tries to stop him from stealing Stan's safe code, Bill shapeshifts, tricks them, and then laughs in their faces.
Boy, you kids sure are gullible. It's funny how dumb you are.
He's not even angry, because to Bill, everything is a game. It's just about his amusement, his desires, his goals, everything. But when things don't go his way, oh boy, hell breaks loose. His voice drops to a demonic rumble, his eye turns black and red, and he erupts.
Eat nightmares!
Ah!
The playful mask shatters the second someone disrupts what he wants, and once his mask is dropped, he's showing to which exact lengths he'd be willing to go to get his way. When he possesses Dipper's body in sock opera, he starts slamming Dipper's hand in drawers, pouring soda in his eyes, throwing him down the stairs, and the whole time he's laughing.
It's gotta be around here somewhere. Boy, these arms are durable.
That's his own line. Any pain is funny when you're the one causing it and it costs you nothing. That's also the pinnacle of his own philosophy. Because Bill doesn't care about being hurt physically, he's not a physical being. He can't even understand what others suffering from pain means either, which is why he keeps inflicting it on others. It's also why Bill doesn't really have any friends. He has business deals, he has accomplices, he has partners. Every interaction relies solely on what the other person can offer him. Look at how he approached Ford. He disguised himself as a muse instead of as a threat-making demon, a benevolent guide appearing only to special geniuses once in a generation. Kind of sounds like an AI at this point. Bill studied Ford, learned what he wanted, and then just became exactly the person who could give it to him, giving him everything he ever wanted, calling him the little genius boy who could do everything. He praised Ford's intellect, offered forbidden knowledge, made him feel like the chosen one. And Ford kind of bought it completely, because yeah, it doesn't matter how smart you are, you're a human and you're susceptible to those kinds of methods. The moment that Ford built the portal and Bill no longer needed the illusion, he just dropped the mask right away, showed him his real selfish tendencies. And once the transaction is complete, you stop mattering to them. Bill wins because he finds the part of you that's already selfish and he cranks it up. When Dipper is sleep-deprived and desperate to crack Ford's laptop, Bill simply asks him questions about what Mabel has done for him lately and how many times that he's sacrificed for her and if she's ever returned the favor. Dipper already felt that resentment. Bill just found it and gave him permission to act on it. That's the pattern. Ford wanted to be special. Dipper wanted recognition. Mabel wanted to avoid change and to have her own fantasy to live in. Gideon wanted power. Bill just offered them exactly what they wanted in exchange for what he needed. Because he can give them power, he can give them physical things. What's that to him, an upper dimensional demon being? He has his other plans. And he understood something that most people don't want to admit. Selfishness doesn't need much convincing. It's already looking for an excuse to show itself. So if you push someone's buttons in the right way to inflate their pride and their ego, their selfishness can take over from there. But where does Bill's selfishness even come from? Who is he? To understand that, we need to go back to where Bill Cipher destroyed everything for the first time. The place was called Euclidia. To most of its inhabitants, it was just normal life. But to Bill, it was a prison. He saw limitations where others saw home.
Imagine living in the second dimension. Flat minds in a flat world with flat dreams.
Everyone else was content with their way of life, but Bill wanted more. And so, he burned it all to the ground. His parents, his neighbors, everyone who had ever existed in the world, all burned. And he just called that liberation. So we're not exactly working with the cleanest and most moral of minds here to start. And in Bill's mind, it's not like he took anything from them, he freed them from their boring, limited existence. This is what pure selfishness looks like when it reaches its extreme, which is where the first real lesson comes in. The cost of selfishness is not even in what you lose, it's who you become. It is the person you were that is lost. When Bill destroyed Euclidia, he made himself completely alone, and the rest of his existence, seems to be chasing after people for partnerships, for business deals, to get him what he wants. He wants to end up on top, but he still wants that social interaction. And he's the only being left from his entire dimension, so he feels super special now. But he frames his isolation as a being, as superiority, like he's so much smarter than everyone else, no one can be his friend or hang out with him or be on his level. But across the entire series, he never manages to form a single genuine connection, whether it's based on intelligence or anything else. Not a single connection. His friends are just henchmaniacs, creatures that he dominates and threatens or partners with and makes deals with. Time baby? Someone he immediately tries to vaporize when challenged. Ford? A tool that just stopped being useful. It was fun while it lasted. Even when he throws his Weirdmageddon party surrounded by chaos and destruction, he's kind of celebrating alone. No one's there with him, they're there for him, doing what he wants, serving his purpose. Underlings. No one can be his equal, no one can be friends with him, no one can be family. Because that's what happens when you treat people like chess pieces. But eventually, you're just playing against yourself. Every relationship becomes transactional. Every person becomes either useful or disposable. And the second you don't need them anymore, they disappear. And the worst part is, Bill pretends that it doesn't actually hurt him, but in reality, here's something we all know. Bill is a huge liar. There's a book called Dipper and Mabel and the Curse of the Time Pirate's Treasure. And in said book, Dipper and Mabel meet the axolotl. Dipper asks what the axolotl knew about Bill, to which the axolotl answered in a poem,
60 degrees, which comes in threes, watches from within birch trees, saw his own dimension burn, misses home and can't return, says he's happy, he's a liar, blame the arson for the fire. If he wants to shrink the blame, he'll have to invoke my name. One way to absolve his crime. A different form, a different time.
He misses home. He says he's happy. That's the truth. He can't face the consequences of his own actions, but his emotions are real. So he buried it under all the noise, under Weirdmageddon, under trillions of years of trying to do the exact same thing to other dimensions. And what makes it worse is that Bill could have self-reflected at some point, changed and realized what he did and had some turnaround moment. Instead, he spent that entire time looking for the next world to destroy. That is some single-mindedness right there. Stopping and reflecting means admitting that he was wrong, and Bill's ego would never allow that. Which brings us to the second lesson: selfishness blinds you to reality. All this time, Bill is only lying to himself, exactly like how selfishness works. You don't wake up one day and decide to be the bad guy. You just keep telling yourself that everyone else just doesn't understand you or deserve anything and that you're in the right and you should be rewarded. Bill genuinely believes that he's doing Ford a favor. He genuinely believed that destroying Euclidia was what everyone secretly wanted. I think he actually is that demented. He's so selfish that he doesn't realize that other people think from their own minds and have a legitimate claim to reality. He can't comprehend that other people might actually like their boring, limited existence in the way that it is right now without magic shooting everywhere. That they might choose connections to people over power and manipulation, safety over chaos, each other over themselves. And that's exactly where Bill's philosophy fails him. When Bill opened the rift, achieved his physical form, and turned Gravity Falls into Weirdmageddon, the only way to stop him now was his own zodiac prophecy, a wheel of 10 symbols surrounding Bill Cipher that was created hundreds of years ago by the town's residents to defeat him. Each symbol represents a person from the present-day main cast, and the prophecy states that by arranging themselves in the correct order, they could banish Bill back to his dimension. So to do that, Dipper, Mabel, the Pines, and all their friends all take their places in the circle. They join hands, and the power starts to build. But then, it all comes down to Stan and Ford holding hands and joining together in this magic happy circle. Two brothers who've spent 30 years resenting each other. Stan sacrificed his future to save Ford, and Ford never thanked him. Stan spent decades trying to bring Ford back. Ford came back and immediately called him a knucklehead.
You left me behind, you jerk! It was supposed to be us forever! You ruined my life!
About to join the circle, the two hesitate. Stan won't grab Ford's hand unless Ford thanks him for saving his life earlier. Ford finally mutters it, and they connect. The circle holds. And then, Ford makes one more comment about Stan's grammar, and Stan snaps. They start fighting, and the circle breaks.
Oh, Grammar Stanley, you stuck-up son of a
Jeopardize
gun!
this, you idiot! Everything's on the line!
Classic sibling stuff.
Didn't you brainiacs know the zodiac doesn't work if you don't all hold hands?
The prophecy fails. Think about what just happened. They knew Bill had to be stopped. They knew reality itself was at stake. They knew the prophecy required them to hold hands for maybe 10 seconds, and they still couldn't do it. Because Stan needed acknowledgement more than he needed to save the world, and Finn needed to be right more than the worth of the entire rest of reality, more than he needed to win and beat Bill. He just needed to be right. In this case, it wasn't Bill's selfishness which lost, it was human selfishness, the kind that knows better but can't help itself. So the entire crew abandons the Zodiac entirely and come up with some different plans. Stan and Ford swap clothes. Bill thinks he's cornered Ford in Stan's mind, so he enters. And instead, they fire the memory gun, and Bill starts dissolving in the memory sphere. And in his final moments, he offers everything.
You're making a mistake! I'll give you anything! Money, fame, riches, infinite power, your own galaxy, please!
Bill can't comprehend that Stan isn't doing this for a reward, for anything physical, for anything he wants.
I'll give you anything! Money, fame, riches, infinite power, your own galaxy, please!
Still, he's trying to make a deal with him to give him something. But Stan doesn't even consider it this time. He sacrificed his mind and his entire identity for his family. The exact opposite of Bill, who could never sacrifice anything for anyone else and destroyed his family. He could never see that coming from Stan, because he thought he was purely egotistical and selfish just like him. That's why he liked him so much. But his own ego blinded him. He couldn't see Stan loving his family more than wanting power. Bill teaches us that selfishness is self-defeating, and that no matter what we pursue in our lives, if we're too self-centered, we don't get what really counts in this life. Bill destroyed his entire dimension and everyone like him and his family and friends and community, all just seeking power and freedom and to conquer Gravity Falls for power and the freedom to do whatever he wanted, when that wasn't the important thing at all. What did he get out of all of this? A few days of chaos before becoming completely obsolete while still offering everything in his final moments? But his defeat exposed the fatal flaw that was always there. Selfishness doesn't serve you. The one thing that bothered us when coming up with this episode is about how people talk about this ending on like Reddit and in reviews and on YouTube. So everyone celebrates Stan's sacrifice, right? It's really meaningful. He's giving up his ulterior desires and standing up for his family and finally being on the right side, even though he's Grunkle Stan. And I mean, they should, right? It's beautiful, that sacrifice. But nobody talks about why it was necessary in the first place and the additional context there. Because the Zodiac would have worked. 10 people holding hands for just about 10 seconds, being part of a larger group, not caring about themselves as individuals. That's all it would have taken to defeat Bill without anyone losing their memories, without Stan having to sacrifice his identity, without any of the risk, and they still couldn't do it. Because Stan needed his thank you, and because Ford needed to get the last word. Two grown men fully aware that reality could collapse around them, and they still couldn't put their egos aside for 10 seconds. That's the part that should terrify you. The fact that two people who loved each other that much, who knew what was at stake, who had the solution literally in their hands, throwing it all away because being right felt more important than being connected. And before you say, I would never do that, yes, you would. Think about your own circles. How many relationships have you soured or let die because you were waiting for an apology that never came, a friendship that drifted away because you just couldn't agree to let things go? Maybe you were quietly building some resentment towards them and you just let communication lapse. How many conversations have you ended because you needed to win more than you needed to listen and to understand? How many people have you lost or not made the best relationships with because you just couldn't let go of something they did 3 years ago? You're not fighting Bill Cipher, you're not saving the world or all of reality, but you're still breaking circles every day. Every time you choose resentment over reconciliation. Every time you keep score instead of keeping connection and letting things go. Every time your ego speaks louder than your love. Stan and Ford's story thankfully didn't end with the broken circle. Ford thanked Stan eventually and, really thanked him and felt it and felt bad for how he treated him. And Stan's memories came back and they reconciled and they love each other as brothers even though they're very different people. They got that second chance. But that's a cartoon. In real life, when you break that circle, sometimes it stays broken. The person you ghosted moves on. The friend you couldn't apologize to stops waiting. The family member you refused to forgive dies before you change your mind. And I'm not saying that you owe them that forgiveness. You can love someone and hate them at the same time and never forgive them and still maybe spend some time with your old granny who's, maybe got not some of the best opinions, but who loves you in her own way. Sometimes it's up to you to loosen your ego a bit and let things go, even though you know it's not the right thing, because sometimes relationships are what counts more than being right. Don't let Bill Cipher's blind spot, his ego, affect you in the same way it affected him, because Bill lost because he couldn't imagine choosing connection over personal gain. Don't let that be your blind spot too. And if the villain of Gravity Falls didn't teach you enough lessons just yet, watch our video on the Lich from Adventure Time. His downfall holds an even more incredible lesson.